Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro podcast, the business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. We're going to talk a little bit today about identifying the things that you're good at and what to do about the things that you are not so good at. And the reason that I want to do this is because I do think that there are a lot of chiropractors out there who are regular listeners to a podcast. Maybe it's mine, maybe it's somebody else's. There's a lot of chiropractic podcasts that are out there, or maybe you're really into like you following a coach or following your mentor or following these different people who are successful inside of chiropractic or even outside of chiropractic, which I think all of that is good. But in a world where there's so much information that's available and we have so much access to successful people, you can start making the mistake of thinking that you're supposed to be good at a bunch of different things, when in reality, you should probably be leaning into certain things and not necessarily everything that everyone says that you should be. So that's what we're going to talk about. This will be hopefully fairly straightforward and just hopefully open your eyes to the way you're thinking about things and maybe give you a little bit of direction in the sense of where you should go with your time and your energy and attempting to become better. Because there's always more things to do than you will have time to do them when it comes to being a small business owner, being a chiropractor that owns your own practice. I think this will kind of help you streamline your vision a little bit. Now, before getting into that, I do want to say if you want help with your website, you want a better chiropractic website, go to Rocket Chiro, request my free practice assessment. I'll look at your website, make some recommendations. If we can work together, great. If we can't, you'll still have some really great information. No obligation, no pressure there. I'll send you a video. It'll be awesome and it'll be helpful. We'll just go from there. If you're just getting started with your practice or you're feeling really stuck, check out my Next Step program. It's a really great place to get unstuck. It's a really great place to get started when you have no idea how to run a small business, have no idea how to run a chiropractic practice, and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed. You're going to find really, really great information to help you get unstuck and help you moving in the right direction and get your career going the way you want to. RocketChiro.com, that's where you'll find all that stuff. So here's what I think happens. And I did a podcast about this a long time ago where I talked about the imaginary Dr. Perfect. And the imaginary Dr. Perfect is basically this person that we create in our mind when you listen to different podcasts, you read a bunch of books, you watch a bunch of videos, and you're watching all of these successful people. What you find is all these different successful people will tell you how they became successful. And let's assume that all of them are telling the truth, that no one's fibbing or making themselves sound better than what they are, or putting a little bit of lipstick on a pig, which we know people do that. But for this conversation, let's just assume everything you read in a book, everything you hear in a podcast, everything is 100% accurate and true. The mistake you make in your brain is that most successful people, and I would probably argue that all successful people, they're not good at everything. They're not great at everything. What successful people tend to do is they tend to be really, really good. They tend to excel really, really well in an area that matters a lot for their business. They excel in a high value area. Now, what is a high value area? Well, that could be a lot of different things, but basically what it is, it's some sort of habit or talent or gift or skill that particular thing, when they do it well, really propels their business. It really is a foundational piece that it's the fuel. It's the fuel to their fire. It drives them. When you listen to 10 different people talk about their 10 different giftings and talents and the things they're good at, you listen to 50 different people talking about the 50 different things that they're good at, and all of those are different. In your brain, you put together this imaginary person that doesn't actually exist, who's good at everything. And that can be really overwhelming for a small business owner, for a chiropractor who's getting started, where you look around and you're like, man, I got to get good at this. I got to be good at social media. I got to be good at SEO. I got to be good at getting referrals, and I got to be good at networking. And I got to be. That's not realistic. It's not fair. And you're actually putting something on yourself that doesn't even exist in reality. People who are really great at their business and have done a really great job tend to do one or two things that are really, really important. They do those things exceptionally well. And then they have people around them that do other important things that they're not good at. Now, I know that when you're first getting started with your practice, The reality is that you're doing most everything yourself. But what you should be doing if you want to get out of that hole is you just get by with the things that you stink at, and you really lean into the things that are high value things that you have a skill and you have a talent with. So that's the mistake that a lot of people can make. And I also don't believe, I wrote down here a note that says, people make the mistake of thinking that they can go from bad to good or bad to great. You make the mistake of focusing on your weaknesses instead of focusing on your strength, which is sort of what we're talking about. Now, I'm not talking about generically focusing on your strengths. It needs to be a strength that can be a fuel for your business. It needs to be something that you're good at that also benefits your business. Like you could be, I put out memes all the time. I think they're hilarious and they're funny and whatever. And I jokingly will tell people when they're like, oh, I like your memes. And I just like, it's just one of the many talents that I have that doesn't make me money. Now, I guess in some weird way, the memes make me money because chiropractors will see them. They follow me. They'll get to know me a little bit better. And I'm sure I have gotten business from the memes. I'm sure that has happened. But it isn't something that, there are other things, like for instance, like I know how to do plumbing and to fix drywall. And there's a whole bunch of things. My dad was a very handy guy. He dragged me along, showed me how to do a lot of things. Like I'm a DIY guy. I'm constantly fixing my own house, fixing my own car. Like that's just sort of the way I live my life. And those things, although they save me money and I can be actually, I always say I'm very, very good. I'm surprisingly handy for a rank amateur. Although I'm good at those things, they don't really help me when it comes to Rocket Chiro. They don't help me when it comes to how I actually make money. They may help me in life. They don't help me with this. So when you're looking at your talents and assessing your talents, I don't want you to just generically say, well, I'm really good at juggling. Let's be a great juggler. I'll be the juggling chiropractor. I don't know. Maybe if you can figure out how to make that help your business, great. If it can be the fuel to your business and a really key fundamental piece of your business, then great. And I could be wrong. Maybe something that drives your business isn't something that would drive my business. But it needs to be a talent, and it needs to be something that is very valuable to your practice if you were to do it at a high level. And you start with the things that you're naturally good at. You don't start with the things you're terrible at. I personally do not believe people go from terrible to awesome. I don't think anybody makes that jump. And people like to use Michael Jordan, and maybe I'm getting old now and people don't use this example anymore, but Michael Jordan was cut from his varsity basketball team as a freshman. And people like to say, well, look at him. He's the greatest basketball player ever, and he was cut from his varsity basketball team. Yeah, he was a freshman. He got beat out by a bunch of seniors and juniors. But the reality is he's probably the best freshman that's ever played at that high school. He was probably the best freshman at that school. He was probably the best sophomore and junior and senior that was ever at that school. But he got beat out as a freshman by juniors and seniors. Like, who cares? He wasn't ever bad at basketball. He was really good. Now, maybe that motivated him and he worked hard and he felt like as a freshman he should have made the varsity team, whatever. But he wasn't bad at basketball. He just wasn't. He was never bad at it. The first time he picked up a basketball and played, he was better than all the other kids who picked up a basketball for the first time and played. He just had some sort of natural God-given ability. He had a different starting point. This is true for LeBron James. It's true for people who are great at things, people who are amazing singers, like world-class singer. The very first time that person sang, they had a different starting point. They had a talent, a gift, a God-given thing that just sort of put them ahead of normal people. This is true for you too. There are things in your life that you're naturally better at than other people. There are things in your life that they come a little bit easier to you. Now, you may never have sat and thought about it. You may never have really even thought that. Maybe you looked around at, I've told you guys before that I'm an introvert. It's like you look at an extrovert and you say, well, they can do that. That's really awesome. That's really amazing. Yeah, but what can I do? Like, I can do things that they can't do. That's true for everyone. So looking at yourself and just saying, what are the things that I'm good at? What are the things that I excel at? And I wrote down a few things here. And because what you need to do is sort of identify these things, and then you just need to figure out how you can actually leverage them. So for instance, like maybe you're really good at speaking or teaching. It's like, how can you leverage that? How can you leverage that within your practice? How can you leverage that within your community to grow your practice? Maybe you're really good at entertaining and social media. I did a podcast a while back about the top chiropractors on Instagram, and I've looked at them and kind of watched them, observed them. I've talked to a few of them. And the thing that's really obvious to me with some, I would say many of the chiropractors who are like the top chiropractors on Instagram, is there's a certain personality, there's certain charisma, and I'm not saying they're all the same, but there's a certain entertainment level to what they are doing that isn't going to be for everyone. Like, not everybody's built like that to do what they're doing. And you could look at it and say, that's amazing, that's great, that's what I want to do. But it's sort of like me saying, I want to be the next Michael Jordan. I could work and work and work and work and work. And you know what? I could go from being, where I'm starting as a basketball player, I could max out my talent. I'm never going to get to that point because it's just not in the cards for me. So looking at what are the things that you're really talented at. It could be speaking, it could be teaching, it could be entertaining, and you could be social media. You could be great at social media and content. You could be really great at copy or writing content. Copywriting is an incredible skill. I wish I was a better copywriter. I think it would be amazing. Like, when you talk about looking at other people and envying things that they can do, I'm good at talking. I'm a talker. It's my thing. Now, am I great at talking? No, probably not. But I'm a decent talker, which is why I have a podcast. Well, I look at writers, people who not just writing content, but intentionally writing content, walking someone through a process, copywriting, sales copy, that sort of thing. And I go, man, that's a really cool skill. Like, that's an impressive skill to be able to kind of walk someone through a process as a writer and to do it well. Relationships and networking. This is something that's always been hard for me. As an introvert, it's really hard for me to build relationships because I get uncomfortable meeting new people. So that might not be something. My ex-wife, when I was in practice, one of the things that she did help my practice a lot with was networking. She was a social butterfly. She liked to network. She liked to go to the B&I meetings and liked to meet people and hobnob and whatever. That was a help to me. And even though she didn't work in the practice in any sort of official manner, that was a huge benefit to us because it sort of allowed me to meet people in a soft way that doesn't just grate up against my introvert nature. Because I don't think I ever would have met the amount of people in the community that I did meet if it weren't for her, because she was really good at that. Now, there were other things that I'm really good at that she wasn't, but that was one of those things. Relationships and networking, that can be a huge benefit to a practice. There are crazy successful practices that are just built on networking relationships. I have structure, like team building, business. Like some of you guys are really good at organizing. You're really good at structure. You're really good at that team building. You'll see chiropractors that have 2, 3, 4 offices all running really well. They're really good at this. They're really good at structure and team building. They're really good at those things, and they're leaning into those things, and it's really benefiting their business, really benefiting their practice. Last thing I said is adjusting. And I put adjusting in here because we do live in a world now where people are entertained by adjusting on social media and videos. Some of the people I saw on Instagram that had really big followings, they weren't doing anything except for adjusting people. Like, some of those people weren't talking at all. And so we do live in a world where, although I don't think being a good adjuster is the reason why chiropractors are successful. I do think you should be. And I've said this over and over again. Please don't hear me wrong when I say that. I believe every chiropractor should be great at adjusting. And frankly, any technique, any treatment that they offer, I think you should be great at it. That should be the goal. And if you aren't great at it, either get great at it or don't do it. So that's how I feel about the level that should be in our profession. It should be very, very high. But I don't think that you have to be good at treatment to be a successful chiropractor, because there are a lot of chiropractors who are very successful who frankly aren't very good at the actual treatment part of chiropractic. They're good at sales. They're good at building team. They're good at networking. They're good at a lot of different things. They're actually not good at this. You'll see this in churches too. There are, I look at a job of a pastor. Like, the primary job of a pastor would be to preach the word, to teach. That would be a primary job. There's secondary, tertiary jobs. There's a bunch of different things, but the primary job is to preach. And so there are pastors out there who are incredible teachers, incredible preachers. My pastor's one of them. He is a wonderful teacher and a wonderful preacher. We don't have the biggest church. Like, we just don't. And I've been to other churches over the course of the last, 10, 15 years of my life that are much bigger churches because the pastor's really good at team building, or he's really good at networking, really good at getting out in the community, maybe really good at singing and really good at entertaining people. And they have a different skill that actually could result in a bigger church, but not necessarily be great at the thing that's probably most important. Chiropractors is the same way. The thing that is most important is probably your adjustment and treatment. Unfortunately, it isn't the thing that is going to mean that you get the biggest practice or make the most money. I know some really great chiropractors, clinically great chiropractors who are just struggle. And that's unfortunate. But here's the thing. The next question is, if I have this skill, let's say you're not good at anything except for adjusting. That's the only thing you're good at. The question I would say is, how can you leverage that? Can you? Maybe. If you do a high velocity like adjustment, you could probably start videoing it and putting online. I would imagine that would help your practice. We live in a world now where that could help you. And 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. Nobody was doing that. Adjustment videos weren't popular, but now you can. And that's the question you have to ask. You're like, is there a video, audio, in-person, online? Is there some way that I can leverage this talent of mine? What are my talents? Can it benefit my business? If I took this talent that I have, or this area that I'm okay at, or I'm pretty good at, or I have some skill. You don't have to be great. You just have to be good. And you could become great because you're starting at good, not starting at sucking. So don't identify things that like, oh, I'm terrible at this, but if I became great at it, then it would really help my practice. I don't think that's smart. Start with what am I good at that could help my practice if I was great at it. And then become great and start leveraging that thing. All the other things that are going on in your practice that are important, but you're not very good at or you're not very interested in, get somebody else to help you as soon as possible. Something like your website. Like I do website for chiropractors. Most chiropractors have no business like owning and hosting their own website. Like, why are you doing that? Sometimes people get a hold of me because I'll do the website service. People will pay me, like I set up their website, I host it, I help do edits, I do all, like it's like an ongoing thing, that the relationship with my website clients, or most of my website clients. And people say to me like, I want to have my own site. I want to host it. I want it to be all mine. And I'll do that sometimes. I'll do website builds for chiropractors. But my question is always like, do you like websites? Do you enjoy working on them and tinkering with them and messing with them and fixing them when they break? Because if you don't, why are you doing this? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. The vast majority of chiropractors have no business doing that. Now they do. Sometimes they own their own, kind of manage their own website, but you just end up with something that is important for your website that's not being done very well because you suck at it and you don't have any interest in it. So have somebody else do it. Same thing with Facebook ads and Google ads. Like I created a very, very, very in-depth, detailed Facebook ads program years ago. It was probably, it's probably been 10 years ago now. And a lot of that has changed. So it's not even a valid program anymore. And it doesn't even exist. It exists on my computer somewhere. But I created this very, very in-depth, detailed, like more than you would ever care to know and want to know for chiropractors, how to create successful Facebook ads. I was doing Facebook ads back when you could only do the little sidebar. I was very well versed in them. I did a great job with them when I was in practice. And so I said, like, I'm going to create this program and I'm going to have people pay, whatever. You pay $47, right? Like, it's like, whatever. It has to end in a 7, 97, 47, 87, something. And then you're going to learn how to do it. What I learned dealing with chiropractors, because over the years, is that the vast majority of chiropractors have no business doing their own ads. They just don't. Are you smart enough to learn how to do it? Yeah. Are you ever going to be great at it? No. Are you even ever going to be good at it? Probably not. And I'm not discouraging you from trying if you want to. I'm just saying that, is that really what you want to do? Is that really where you want to spend your time and your energy and your effort? I mean, I think it would be great if there was a world that, if you wanted to do Facebook ads or Instagram ads or Google ads or whatever, that your practice was doing well enough that you could afford to pay someone to do it. Now, I know it can be expensive because you end up paying $500 to $1,000 a month for someone to manage your ads. You end up paying another $1,000, $1,500 a month for the ad spend. It ends up being $2,000 to $3,000. Like, I get it. But I kind of think it's a shame that chiropractors aren't doing well enough that they can't do that if they wanted to. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just saying it is one of those things that it can be foundational, it can be important, but should you do it? I would say most of you no, because you're not good at it. You're not going to take the time to be good at it. And it's just not going to be worth it. It's just going to be a giant pain in the butt. So whether it's websites, I felt this way with accounting. I absolutely hate doing accounting. Hate it. Still hate it to this day. I got myself in trouble a few years ago because I hired an accountant that was not helping me. So I had to hire somebody else that was about a year and a half ago to fix it because my accountant messed up my taxes and messed up all my stuff because unfortunately I made the mistake of hiring someone who I was referred, thought they were going to help me. They didn't. But what I was trying to do is I was trying to have somebody else do something that is important. My taxes are important. My accounting is important. It's important that someone does that. And then I don't do it because it's important. It needs to be done, but I'm going to have somebody else do it. So that's my encouragement to you as a chiropractor. And the way I want you to start thinking about these things when you get started, I know you have a lot of things to do. I totally understand that. But what you should be doing is pick out the few things that are going to be most valuable for your practice long-term. Like what are the things that are really going to move the needle? Focus on those things, get better at those things. And then the other things that are important, have somebody else do them as soon as possible. And if you have to do them in the beginning, that's totally fine. But as soon as possible, the plan needs to be to delegate those things that are important that somebody else can do, that you don't want to do, you're not good at, and focus on the things that you can be great at that really help your business. And then you become the best. You'll get the best practice that way. You'll get the most successful practice that way because you're not trying to become this imaginary Dr. Perfect and someone who is not realistic. You go down that route where you try to be great at everything, you're going to fail. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening. If you want a better website, go to rocketchiro.com. If you want help getting your practice going and you're feeling a little stuck, check out my Next Step program. You'll love it. I'll talk to you guys on the next episode. See ya.